So, firstly, thank you so much for having me, Julia, and the committee. And it is really an honor to be sitting here with a lot of old friends. I see names of people who have visited me in South Africa, David, Alan, others, and people who have helped me to develop the South African software industry. I won't speak about the South African software industry unless anyone asks me at the end, but I will be talking today about digital transformation. And I've come up with this idea of a digital transformation spiral model. And I have to say that it is still work in progress. So I've developed this model. I've been piloting it in various situations, but I'm putting it out there just to talk about it, but to get people's input as well. So please feel free to comment, to criticize, to shoot me down in flames, or to praise me if you think it's good. I think this is just a chance for me to expose this thinking about digital transformation to this esteemed audience. So
we're there for you, Barry. We'll shoot you down.
Please, Alan, shoot me down if you have to. So the talk will be covering things is the list of topics I'll cover is what is digital transformation and why should we do it? What are the risks and how do you do digital transformation? And then I'll compare the digital transformation maturity models and digital transformation lifecycle models, and then focus in on this framework that I'm suggesting, which is the digital transformation spiral model. And then I'll take you through the steps that this model suggests, and then throw it open to questions. So that's what I'm hoping to do in the next half hour or so. So I'm sure that people have this at their fingertips, but digital transformation is about various things. It's about, but it's really about changing the business. It's not about digital technology. It's about business transformation. And there are various quotes here. It's also about exploiting the latest digital technology to change organizations. So I just have to say that I'm struggling to see my slides. Everything seems to be covering it up. So whoops. Sorry, just give me 2 seconds. Nope. Did I just lose the presentation?
Nope, it's fine.
You're still presenting.
Okay.
You just have to.
I've just got lots of things on my screen that are blocking up the bits I want to see. But anyhow, let's try this. Okay, that's much better. I'm sorry about that. I'm just getting used to this platform. So the key thing that I have to say, and I'm sure you'll all agree, is digital transformation is not about technology. It's about strategy. It's about changing culture. It's about changing people, and it's about using data, which is the new gold of the 21st century. So that's what it's really about. And why should an organization want to transform? Why not just, if your business is fine, why not leave it? And I think the pressures come from 5 directions. The one direction is through customer expectations. The people who will be using your business are people who are living in this world where everything is going digital. So people who are existing in or transacting in the digital world and doing everything from entertainment to work to learning in the digital world have an expectation that the businesses they deal with will match that expectation of being digital. Company staff as well carry that expectation. So the people you employ expect their employer to also be engaged in this digitally transformed world. And the ecosystem that our business is integrating into is more and more digital. So you can't hold out and not be digital, because it'll become harder and harder to fit into your ecosystem. Things like cybersecurity and managing data implies by definition that you're working digitally. And it also gives you big advantages in terms of leveraging digital assets. So I think it's no longer a choice that people say, should we transform digitally or should we not? I think the pressures are there, and this is 5 of them. There are probably another 20 we could name. But digital transformation is very risky. So Blake Morgan wrote in September 2019 in Forbes magazine a small article where she says that a staggering 70% of transformations fail. And although companies know how crucial it is to evolve their technology, putting it into action is a different story. And many companies have endeavored on this digital transformation journey and have hit roadblocks. And she quotes a few examples. There are many, many, many examples. But one example was Ford, who took the design studio within Ford, and they digitally transformed that. And the mistake they made is that they actually ran it as a sideshow. So it wasn't the whole Ford company. It was one small part of Ford, and it didn't gel into the culture of Ford. GE went the other extreme, where they tried to do too much. They tried to transform all of GE, and that had huge problems. And then P&G, the Procter & Gamble, the packaging company, they didn't look at what their competitors were doing. So they went out on a limb and didn't sort of gel into their ecosystem. A focus on technology aspects and not on business transformation tends to be the big reason for failure. And to re-stress this point is that digital transformation is not about technology, it's about business. So how do people deal with the transformation journey? And if you scan through the literature and speak to the consultants out there, they all seem to have a digital transformation maturity model. So most of the large consulting groups have these DTMMs, and they use them as part of their consulting engagements. I'm wondering if there are any consultants on the call, and maybe you can kind of defend these digital transformation maturity models, but they tend to be a group of questions. It could be packaged into some tool, but you work your way through questions. Answering the questions will assess how ready you are for digital transformation. And it's like the CMMI model in a way. It's the compass and the map. It will put you somewhere on the map, and then where you find yourself, it'll direct you where to go. So, for example, and there are many of them, the Forrester model, version 4.0, consists of 28 questions grouped in 4 dimensions: culture, technology, organization, and insights. And you work through the questions, and then it'll place you at one of 4 maturity levels. And according to where you placed, it'll then give you sort of guidance in terms of how to move up those maturity levels. And there are many of these models, and they're used on large organizations, small organizations, but that's one way that people try to manage the digital transformation journey. The shortcoming of these transformation maturity models, and it has to be said, if we go back to that quote by Blake Morgan, a digital transformation has a poor track record, and some, if not all, of the organizations going on the journey have used such models. And the problem is that the journey is multiple interrelated changes that affect many parts of the organization, which evolve over time. And in my mind, the DTMMs are a bit too simplistic. They do not adequately track and support all this multiple interrelated changes and things evolving over time. So I turned my mind to lifecycle models, and coming from a software development background, I'm very familiar with lifecycle models. But in fact, lifecycle model approaches are used in many transformative business activities. So there are many lifecycle models. And what life cycles help you do is to manage and track changes that evolve over time. And life cycles best deal with these multiple changes that take place over phases of a lifespan. So to achieve successful digital transformation, I believe we need to manage the entire digital transformation life cycle. And scanning around, one finds that it wasn't only me who thought that. There are quite a few of these digital transformation lifecycle models. One came out in 2020. Mark van Rossing and George Etzel published a group of papers talking about this DTLC, and it's relatively complicated. There's a picture down on the bottom of the screen of the different parts of this life cycle. But effectively, there are 4 big phases. There's the understand phase, there's an innovate phase, a transformation phase, and a continuous improvement phase. And it's pointed out by them that it's that continuous improvement phase that's very important, and most people don't engage in that, so they don't continually improve. And that's what I've tried to capture in my model. So the digital transformation spiral model, as I've called it, is one possible framework. And this is purely a suggestion, and there could be many other ways to think of life cycles. I've tried to depict here a spiral, but it's in it's seen through 2 different lenses. One lens is the design and develop lens. So that's the pinkish part in the center. And the steps that we go through is we begin by understanding. So we kind of understand what we're trying to achieve in our digital transformation journey. We then loop around 90 degrees in this spiral, and we innovate. We look for innovation. and then we implement, and then we improve. So we are kind of looping around that, those 4 phases that was actually suggested in that previous life cycle model, which is understand, innovate, implement, improve. And there's another set of activities that are happening in parallel to those, which is your governance cycle, where I've got approve. It still starts with understand, but then you approve, transform, and evaluate. And I'll try to explain this sort of step by step. So the first task that you have to do, whether you're doing the design and develop, or you're doing your governance, is to understand what your objectives are. And I've created a template, and the template looks at things like expectations, drivers for change, the jobs to be done, and risks. And for example, the drivers for change would look at external drivers and internal drivers. And among external drivers for change are things like technology, markets, social changes, political forces. And the kind of internal drivers for change are things like your workforce, the personnel in your management structures, and it tries to overcome organizational inertia. So there's a template that you work through, and that will kind of help you capture the drivers that would drive digital transformation. Once you've pinned that down in the kind of inner circle, what you then have to do is you have to innovate. So the objective in the innovate phase is to come up with a new innovative digital business model. So you're now saying that we kind of understand we have to change, and with that understanding in mind, we want to innovate a new business model. But the question is, how do you imagine what this new model would look like? What aspects of the organization do you need to think about? And how do these different aspects interact with each other? And to capture that, I'm using the business model canvas. So business model canvas, I'm sure you've all heard of, came out in 2010. And it's a tool where you can get on a single page in a quick and quite simple way, a new innovative business model. I just sort of touch on it here if there are people that haven't seen the business model canvas. It consists of 9 blocks. At the center, there's your value proposition. On the right of it are your customer assumptions, so customer segments, channels, and customer relationships, and your revenue streams. And that's on the right, and on the left is your business. So your key partnerships, activities, resources, and costs. So it's possible to capture in these 9 blocks using very simple, and they kind of use these post-it notes usually. And this is a little example for a new business about T-shirts and kind of designer T-shirts. And you can, in a very quick and easy way, you capture all the assumptions that make up that business model. But the trick is that you then test it and build minimum viable products. So I won't go into that. But the idea is that you're using a tool that can help you quickly innovate your business model. At the same time, or at the point that you've got that new model, you then in your governance phase, you approve it. So in the approve step, which is in the green circle, you would then go to your approval authority, maybe your company's board. And the board would refer back to that understand template, and they ask the questions is, will this proposed new model satisfy the expectations? Will this new model, or kind of how well will this new model respond to drivers for change? Will it cover all the jobs to be done? And it will look at risk. So you've got a tool that your approval authority would use to assess that business model to see whether you're meeting the key objectives of your transformation journey. The kind of next step is to approve it. An approval is not simply a sign-off. The approval authority, when they sign it off, has to define critical success factors and has to allocate resources, roles and responsibilities, approve an implementation plan. And for those of you who've worked with the CMMI model, that's the generic practices. You start to you can't just approve, but you would approve and then give it teeth in terms of how you can then implement it. Step 3 and 4 is very iterative, and you skip between this implement and improve, and you again use the business model canvas. So the business model canvas drives your change through a number of small steps, and kind of each step leads to a minimum viable product that can be assessed and approved or disapproved, and you sort of move through changes using this business model canvas. And your new innovative business model evolves in a number of steps between steps 3 and 4. So that's in your pink circle. In the green circle, what you're doing is you are at kind of step 3, you are monitoring your plan, and you are checking progress against the plan. You are looking if you are meeting the critical success factors, and you're monitoring risks. And you're collecting data to do that, and then at step 4, you do it. So if you think back again to the CMMI model, your board that gave approval from time to time kind of looks again at the plan and the progress and agrees whether you should go or no go or change things. And that drives this continuous improvement. So between step 3 and 4, you're continuously improving the model. And then eventually at 4, you will say to yourself, is that enough? Have we transformed to a point where we're happy? And it could then be that you go through another spiral. This idea of this constant iteration and incremental change is something that makes people in charge of governance very troubled, because when will this all end, and when will you settle down into a steady state? And I've tried to draw on Kent Beck's 3X model, and Kent Beck talks about this kind of S-curve that looks like that. So he talks about the first X, where you kind of do lots of small experiments very quickly and very cheaply. So you try things out, you pilot things, you do things, and there's a low cost of failure. You would then find something that seems to work really well, and you expand that. You then give it the kind of resources to expand and to grow it, and you then move to extract, where that becomes a more mature business as normal model. And you can cascade these and get your continuous improvement. So it's the 3X model kind of shows you how you can combine a very quick and agile approach to like many changes until you find something that settles. and then you would look at continuous improvement. So that's the picture of my life cycle. That's what the whole thing looks like. And it's the tools that I use are all trusted or fairly trusted tools, like the business model canvas, and the 3X is something more and more people are writing about and using. And I've been trying this in some small transformation examples, and it seems to work, but it still needs to be really stress tested in some really big examples, and that's still to be done. So that's where I am. I hope I haven't gone on too long, but I'm now really open for questions, comments, and criticism if there is any. Thank you.
Steve, do you want to go ahead and read your comment?
Yeah, there are a number of comments in the chat that I'll just mention. First of all, Alan Willett mentioned that he's loving this, and Julia mentioned herself that she loves the definition that you provided of approval in the government cycle. I made the observation that it strikes me that the digital transformation spiral model would be highly scalable. It seems to me that the concept could be used to focus on one particular aspect or organizational unit, maybe a division or a department of a business, or in a much broader context, which I think is probably what's intended, but it seems to me to be fairly scalable. Do you have any comment on that?
Yes, and I think that it kind of must be scalable, because I think you can't, it's completely viable and maybe a good idea to do digital transformation in a part of your organization, but I think that you tend to flounder if you try to limit your transformation journey to only one bit of your business. You have to sort of cover the whole organization. So it must be scalable to expand into all of your business eventually, but you can take it in chewable chunks, if that makes sense.
It does, thank you. Another comment was from Gwen Foster, and the comment is, how could this model be applied across supply chains? There are rapid changes in the trade ecosphere on the back of COVID and climate change, and technology such as blockchain and auto ID play a significant part, for example, in transparency in supply chains. And the rate of change of education systems and people are limiting factors, and data accuracy is vital. This requires standardization and interoperability.
Sure. I think that it's a really good observation, and I think that my kind of hope is it would work in that context. I think that kind of life cycle models are good for sort of many changes that are intertwined. So, you know, I think if you've got sort of different aspects of your business, the supply chains and other parts of the business, if you can think of it in an appropriate life cycle way, and maybe this isn't the life cycle for everything. So, you know, maybe we need other frameworks that will deal with other problems. I think that I've steered clear of anything about technology. So, you know, things like blockchain or DevOps or kind of how that fits in, I've steered clear of that, and I've tried to think more at a business level. But within that, you would then have to have other life cycle models that deal with your technology changes. I don't know if I've answered that. It's quite a hard question.
It was a hard question. Steve, are you reading you're going to keep going with
Well,
reading?
I was just going to ask if Gwen Foster had any other comment that she wanted to make, or in response to Barry's response there.
Hi, yes, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yes.
Okay, great. I think what is happening, and here I'm coming from a South African perspective, mainly from the agricultural sector. What is happening on the back of climate change, on the back of anything accelerated by COVID, is we are facing new laws. And if I can use as an example, the EU Green Deal and new farm to fork policies that are coming out that are expected to be legislated within 2 to 3 years. I'm completely at this stage discounting the Russian-Ukraine situation. This is happening regardless. But what that is forcing is a standardized identity of, and that's using the GS1 systems for those people who know it. GS1, if you scan something at a retail checkout, that is one of the GS1 codes. But there are a variety of systems, and that is going global. There is, they're standardized at present, but there's at present a global project. And if you just imagine a consumer, and they're driving a lot of this, who comes into a store, who scans a QR code, which is a stacked barcode, and we've got, even in South Africa, we've got the local retailers switching to that. Scan a code and see a picture of a happy farmer and be assured that there are no labor problems, there are no this and that and the next. It's produced sustainably, it's whatever the case might be. Now, this used to be confined to organic. It is now going a lot broader, and it is forcing the data acknowledgement, the data recording down to ground level. And many, many of our smallholder farmers and community producers simply do not have the technology. So we can't assume a big enterprise type environment. And it comes down to saying, which is where I spend my life, okay, how do we solve it? And this, obviously, we can take offline, but that's where I'm coming from. We can't ignore the reality of what is happening. We can't ignore the likely impact. This is a global issue. There are global moves, and we need to address it. But if you just imagine a consumer, and you can go into some of the retailers now, this isn't new, and take a picture and see a happy, smiley farmer, that is really where we are going with a lot of this stuff. EU regulations, importers are likely to have to prove or show that all players in that supply chain are certified against sustainability. They're certified sustainable if they want to get an import license. So if we take a 5 to 10 year view, we desperately need to address this at ground level, and very happy to discuss this. I know it's slightly out of today, but we can't ignore that level of change in the environment and the impact already on the retailers, on supply chains, and so on.
Thank you for that. Barry, any comment on how the DTSM applies in that context?
So it kind of sounds like a cop-out, but what the key to it, the key to the spiral model, like the key to everything, is to define your requirements. So that first step where I say understand can be as complicated as you wish, but you are saying that here's my organization as it stands now, and what do I want to achieve in this digital transformation journey, which might just be one iteration around the spiral, but you are saying let's try to achieve certain things, not about technology, but about the business. What is the business going to be one iteration later? And you then you create an innovative solution to get to that, and then you iterate towards that. So it sort of goes through these iterative steps, and that understand step can be as complex as you wish in terms of what you're trying to achieve. So I don't know if that, but I think maybe Gwen and I should touch base on this. It's an interesting point you're making.
Sure.
Quite happy
It
to
strikes
touch
me that
base.
your slide 13, where you're taking a look at the understanding of the current situation and identifying the external and internal forces that are influencing the change that's necessary, applies a great deal toward the comment.
Yeah, yeah.
There are a
Yeah.
few other comments that I'd like to get to, if we might.
Sure.
Thank you.
So Bill Nichols mentions, how do you account for how the digital transformation affects the workflows? And how do you understand performance differences when the work has changed so much?
Yeah, and I just have to say it's so lovely to see Bill. Hi, Bill. It's really wonderful to see you. It's like really, this is like a grand reunion of my favorite people on earth. But I think the workflows, I've kind of dodged that particular bullet. So I've been working at a higher level. But as you do those implement and improve steps, you clearly have to zoom into it and look at workflow and work organize, or to organize the change in a way that that an organization would do. So there could be hidden inside this model could be a software development life cycle that would kick in at certain points that you would then kind of do that implementation. I don't know if I've actually answered your question, Bill, but
Feel free to unmute and
Yeah, well, what I had in mind was I've looked at a specific problem where they were having a hard time understanding if they'd really achieved their goals. And part of that was they continued to try to work the way they had, even after they had started implementing some of the digital transformation, but the workflows had not adapted. So you had this architectural mismatch between the way they were trying to do their work and what the way things should work in this digital environment. And maybe that's something that gets subsumed under the maturity model, but it seems there are some layers of the onion that we have to peel to get at some of these root causes. And I'm just wondering how to fit that into the framework.
Yeah, well, there I'll depend on you, and we can do a joint paper on this. But I think that in fact, one of the things that I can see is that digital transformation, and it's been very interesting during COVID because we've all been patting ourselves on the back and saying, oh, well, because we all work from home and we all now communicate through Zoom or Teams or GoToMeeting, we've now digitally transformed. And I think that the workflows and the nature of what people do and how they do it and kind of how they relate it's digitalized, it's not digitally transformed. And I think a digital transformation, that part of the definition really talks to different business models. You do things differently. So if you just do the same things but use digital tools, that's not digital transformation, I believe.
Oh, thank you. And Gail Sturgis had a comment as well. She said that, I think this is a great overarching life cycle, but we need to understand that the transformation today impacts business, technology, and people, and these need to be integrated, maybe through other models, but they do need to be incorporated together. Otherwise, the chances of real good success may be limited.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think that, and I think one of my first slides gives a quote, I think from Salesforce, where they do speak about that combination of people, process, and technology. And I think and what digital transformation is about is really about change management. It's how you change, and you can't only change the technology. It is about the people and the processes and other things. So your kind of innovate phase is not just innovating technology, it's also innovating your relationships between people. And in fact, the business model canvas captures that quite neatly, because it does look at those 9 dimensions of the business.
All right. I think we have just a few more minutes before we wrap up. Are there any other comments or questions? Feel free to go ahead and unmute.
Alan, I think you're next in the queue if you want to unmute.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Go ahead, Alan.
Yes. You want me to do my question?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Barry. So I was just thinking about the time to take a trip around the spiral. And my question was, do you have a sense of the range? And I know it depends, but I just got to know, is there a sense of the range to make a trip?
It's true to say that it would depend, and it will depend on your first step. So your sort of understand what you're trying to do. So you could be trying to kind of make a relatively small tweak to your organization through the digital transformation journey, and then that spiral would be done quite quickly, because there's not much to do. You could be.
Are we talking weeks or months?
Well, it depends. I have to say that Alan taught me to say it depends, so I'll use. Yeah, but it's kind of hard to say, because it depends on what your objective is in doing the transformation, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So Barry, I'll just tell you why I'm thinking about this. And I think we have to get a lot of experiments out there. The quote unquote agile world pushes us to think about, can we deliver value in 2 weeks? And that really upended the cart for a lot of organizations and teams to rethink that. And I'm thinking about this at a business scale, from the size of an organization of, say, 4 or 5 people to the size of a 10, 20,000 or 100,000 people. What kind of, and I'm trying to think, how do we upend the scale here to think this spiral model can keep transitioning businesses on a much faster cycle? That's what I'm playing with in my head here.
Yeah. Could I say that I do see this as being a quite profound transformation. So it would be in the order of months or years, and not days or weeks. So it would be something you to really make a substantial change to your business model, and that isn't going to happen in a few days or weeks.
Right. So we're not talking the 2 week spiral, the 2 week Scrum process. We're talking more like a business. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That helps me think about it, and I'm sure we'll have more discussions on that.
Yeah.
I think just the final comments before we wrap up. Bill Nichols had mentioned that the digital transformation has profound effects on systems that must interact, and the thought is that that's probably relevant to Gwen's comment as well. So, how do you do this in a digital ecosystem, maybe more broadly than an organization is, it sounds like.
Yeah. Can I treat that as a comment? I can't really answer that. But yeah, I do agree.
Well, very well, Barry, this was a fascinating presentation, and I think it gives us a lot to think about and maybe new ways of thinking about. So thank you very much.
Thank you.